All right, we're at SHOT Show. We're at the Fintiso booth, and Eric Outer's going to be our guy. He's going to tell us all about the Fintiso knives. He's going to help him out, kind of give us the side to side on all these wonderful knives they got here on the table.
Very good. Well, first off, thank you. Appreciate you coming to the booth. So on the Love Them Knives channel, you've already had an opportunity to look at some of these. I've been noticing that you've had a good opportunity to get your hands on some of these folders. So give me your first impression. How do you think things have been going so far?
Well, I have actually reviewed 6 different series knives that they've done. And so, yes, I mean, they are a good for the dollar value and in my mind, budget category type knife.
That's right.
Button lock, liner lock. But the fit and finish seems to be right there with most anybody in that class.
Good. I'm glad you said that. So obviously Fintiso is kind of the new guy on the block, but they have plenty of experience. In fact, the owner of the company has experience coming from the jewelry industry. So they've had all the machining and all the capabilities, but they're now applying it to knives. So they're always looking at the details, and that's what I've actually come to really appreciate about their product line. They have 10 knives, so as you mentioned, you've already taken a look at a bunch of them.
Yes.
And in 2025, they're anticipating a launch of 10 more models. So of course, you know, you'll have some opportunities on the channel, and you'll be able to show your audience what they have up and coming. So even though you've seen, you know, 6 of the 10 that exist, there's much more to come, which is really cool. So anyway, each one of their model lines, you can see they have different colorways, of course. What I like that they've done very well is they're kind of mixing materials within a particular series, and you don't always get that. So I'll give you the example here. This is the Odyssey series, and you'll notice you go from a G10 to an aluminum, and then you have wood. You don't always get that. A lot of times companies might give you 4 or 5 different colors of only G10, or 4 or 5 colors of only aluminum, but here at least you get that. So a little bit of that kind of mix and match depending on what you like.
Exactly, and so the proper pronunciation is Fintiso?
I say Fintiso, that's how I've been pronouncing it, so that's kind of what rolls off.
So that's the new rule. I can't say Fintiso anymore. I have to say Fintiso.
Hey, look it, it's tomato, tomato, right? It is
okay.
How you pronounce it, it's all fair.
Because jewelry, and it's high class now, so it's Fintiso. Kind of that Italian sound. Okay.
That's right. So, you know, your audience should already have some familiarity with the folders, and this is where the brand started. But I'd like to kind of bring you this way for a minute.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind the fact that this is actually a sister company to Shanzhou. And Shanzhou has been in the kitchen cutlery business for quite a while. So even though now they're getting into the folders, a lot of their experience does come from the kitchen cutlery side. And in fact, Shanzhou has a real large presence in Europe. And now they're coming to the US, and they're doing a nice job here in the US. And included here in the Fintiso line, you can see they have some, and I guess what I'm going to say, crossover from the kitchen. So we get into some of the kitchen knives, but then they start to shift into the outdoor camp knives and really introducing your ability to do that quality cooking in the outdoors, which I enjoy about that. I'm a outdoor hiking, camping, backpacking guy. I think a lot of you can sort of relate to the backyard experience and saying, hey, I'd like to have a little bit of a more robust blade while I'm doing my cooking in the field.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Like these little dogs here, right? And you sent me a picture of these, and if I can get my focus right, there we go. But this is interesting.
Yeah, so that's actually one of my designs, which is kind of how I got here. So
okay.
As they're launching sort of more of those camp knives, they started to reach out for some expertise and for some feedback to say, you know, what can we do to really cross that bridge and get to the outdoors and get into that outdoor space.
Okay.
So
Very
the
nice.
idea here, this is the Rhino Cleaver in the small version. This is actually debuted here at the show. And the idea being that you do still have that kind of cleaver shape. It's going to have a good ability to work down on the surface. But we introduced a number of those more camp knife features. So I do a lot of fire prep. I like to really use my knives to process wood. And so the features that you need is, first off, a good pronounced guard so that you don't run up on the blade. You need everything rounded so that if you use alternate grips, you don't create any hot spots. I'll go deep into the mountains, sometimes 10 miles, and I can't create wounds in my hands because if I damage my hands while I'm out there, it's obviously a dangerous situation. So that's important. And if you look at, and this is under the Shanzhou brand name, everything's rounded out really nice.
Okay, and so are those scales detachable?
You can detach them. In fact,
Okay,
you'll notice
yeah,
it's
I see.
removable hardware. And even though they have the one-sided screw,
Yeah.
you know as well as I do, because you're in the folding world, that will just spin on you if you don't put a D shape in there. So I had them intentionally make that D shape so that even though it's one-sided, you can take it out.
That was a smart move.
So,
Definitely.
Yep, and I learned that from my warranty and service claims work on the folding knife industry.
Yes,
So-
I remember that.
Yep. So anyway, that is the Rhino Cleaver small, and then they have a couple of other versions that are designed.
Well, this is pretty crazy looking, that Nesmuk.
Yeah, this is the Nazar. A real nice and very balanced knife. I'll have you hold this and get
Been
your.
very popular for several hundred years now.
Yeah, they did a nice job pulling this off too. You'll notice a real full handle, so it doesn't matter what size paws you got. You know, that's going to work for smaller hands, tighter up, or larger hands further back. Crowned, you'll notice they just round and soften everything in all the right spots. They're jimping. They're doing a nice job, spaced well, not overly aggressive, and you'll notice that all of their knives are extremely sharp right out of the box, so they're doing a great job there.
A lot of belly on that blade, be a good skinning knife, etc., which I think was kind of the original purpose of this knife. Oh, I can't remember the name of the guy, but the Native Americans up in the New England area had a name for this guy that had this kind of knife, and they called him Nesmuk. And ever since then, this has been the design that has been called the Nesmuk type design, which has been very popular for outdoors people for a long time. So that's way cool.
Yeah, so you can see they're starting to get more into the camp knife lineup. And then they're sort of in between, which
Yeah.
I find these really, really cool. This is sort of like a Sayax design, but
It is.
full tang. But you could see that being in the kitchen, but you could see that being in the outdoors. It's that nice sweet spot in between.
And Sayax is a European word which means sword, I think, or knife.
I'm bad at
SEAX,
some of that stuff.
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
So, and they do this sort of hammered look. That's a machine finish, but they introduced that hammered look, which is
I've had
really
that hammered
nice.
look, but that's usually after 8 o'clock at the bar.
That's fair, yeah. And then
Okay.
the last one I'll show you here, and this is the Titan, that same idea. So you can see, again, full tank construction, a little bit thinner on the blade steel stock there. 14C28N, so you don't often see that in the kitchen, but you definitely see that in the outdoors.
Yeah, and it should be pretty nice for kitchen because it's so non-corrosive. So that
Good
should
call,
be fine.
right? Good call,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
agree. Good serviceable, nice edge retention, but reasonable corrosion resistance.
Yes.
It's going to be that sweet spot right
And
in
you
the
can
middle.
sharpen it pretty easily too, so that's good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, with that, I think that gives you sort of the direction that this brand is going.
Let's take a
which
look
is
at some of
very
these
fun.
Fintiso show-off knives.
Yeah,
It's like I call them.
yeah.
Look at that. Whoa,
So
baby.
you're going to see, if you start checking these guys out, and I don't ever quote price, because obviously it's subject to change and
Yeah.
time goes on, but you're going to find a very, very nice price for as beautiful as these knives are. 67 layer Damascus, gorgeous handles, incredible fit and finish. They're just really elegant and very well balanced, and just that overall look is fantastic. So
Yeah, yeah. And they feel relatively lightweight. But yeah, obviously a stainless Damascus of some sort. 'Cause
yeah, so that's a stainless, but it's based on 10 CR15 MOV
Yeah.
sort of core.
Exactly.
Yep.
I'm seeing that's pretty much what you're seeing on a lot of stainless Damascus these days.
Yep. And then, like these, for example, this is what they call the Marisol series. So this is a 7-layer Damascus, so it doesn't have nearly as many layers, but you can see that really interesting and just, I don't know, ocean-like pattern.
Like a temper line almost, but yeah.
Like that Hamon line, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's the word I was looking for.
Exactly.
So you got all the words.
But this is built on an S35 VN core, so it's a little more premium.
That's what she was saying, yeah.
And then with the handle, so first off, you can see how it's that one-piece construction up into that bolster. Then they get into the stabilized wood with your resin. And the resin, I find resin to be fairly durable, yet at the same time, it's not quite as dense as something like a G10 is going to be dense and put a lot of handle weight. This ends up a little more forward weighted, but it's still a very light and balanced feeling knife in the hand.
Yeah, it is. And it's, that should be nice. It should be pretty good performance. And, you know, if the S35 part is like 19%, somewhere in there of chromium, so very corrosion resistant. Yeah, overall, yes, very interesting. I like it.
That's a pretty knife.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Couple of different blade shapes, and I think the last thing that I'll point out, just on this particular model, and it's because I like what they did, see how they almost put like an unsharpened swedge on there, but it has just an alternate, satin finish, and it really catches the light. So you end up with these real interesting shades across the entire blade, and I just think that speaks to the overall attention to detail they're putting into their products.
Very nice. I like it. I like it really well.
So, yeah, man. I hope that helps you guys see what's happening here at the Fintiso booth, SHOT Show 2025. And as always, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, Eric. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.